My work is related to the use of the automated data system in environmental monitoring, which is actually a case study of how environmental ADMs in China use the design data platforms and then facilitate the public use of the platforms to push forward environmental changes. I'll do this present my work by tracing the data flows and the outsourced data activism in the Chinese context. So a big introduction about data activism. As we just heard from yesterday's presentation, there is the shift from representation mode in the mediated politics of visibility or voice. I would say there is also the change of digital activism from the representational model of the visibility to the data-based, or it's kind of operational model of digital activism. Well, then briefly, data activism is kind of a tactical use of data infrastructures to facilitate public engagement. And during that process, some new forms of agency will be formed, and also the political data subject will come into being. Currently, there are two major types of data activism. One is data as a stake. That means taking data as the goal or the starting point of the intervention. For instance, protecting individual privacy or getting access to some important data. Well, then data as wrapped Y is another type of data activism. That means data-enabled activism involving the kind of engagement both through and also with data. So this case study is about how an ENGO based in Beijing is called Institute of Public Environmental Affairs, IPE, how they designed a data platform by using the data released by different levels of government and translate all those raw data into the user-friendly platform, and how they facilitate the user participation in environmental monitoring by transforming the affordances or making it more user-friendly, and also to pressuring those government agencies to further release environmental data and then facilitate public participation. The first dimension I'm going to focus on is about the material relations, which focuses on the building of the data infrastructure that collects raw data from pollution factories or factories. As you can see here from the image, this is the national network of environmental monitoring, which has more than 3,000 monitoring stations already at both the municipal level and also the county level. And the operation of this vast network actually relies on a group of civil servants. It's actually more than 60,000 people involving in the daily work of collecting data and then uploading them and also releasing the data to the public. So with the data infrastructure mostly built by the state, the NGOs or activists, they can creatively design platform infrastructure. In this case, I'm going to introduce BlueMap app for environmental monitoring. The flash here is actually showing how the activists or NGOs can visually present the environmental pollution. It just gives people a very fresh impression about which region or which province have the most serious environmental pollution and which area have more good air quality. And the dark color means pollution. The light color, blue and green, means the air quality is good. So this type of national platform infrastructure have a function that is to uniform the data standards or data formats from different regions, different provinces across the country. So I will call this a national platform to standardize the data collected from different regions, make it user-friendly and facilitating citizens' cross-territorial use of it. As you can see from the images here, it has different pages or different interfaces. The first one is about the air map, showing the information of the governmental monitoring stations. For instance, the map in Tianjie, actually you could say different spots in different colors, and the red spots means probably having very bad air quality. And if the public wants to know more about the reasons, what are the reasons of the pollution, they could click the spot and then it will lead them to the page on the right, showing all the informations of the enterprises and factories. Also demonstrate in different colors. Red means it's kind of generating pollution at the moment. And if citizens and the public would like to know more about it, they will actually could click the information and then it will provide the specific data related to a particular factory. As you can see here is an example from Nantong, the city, another major city in Jiangsu province. So if I click that specific spot of factory, it will lead me to the page where I can find the information about the factory, the name of the company, what type of factory it is, and also there is the function of checking details. If we press it, we will get to the page on the right, which have all the information about the daily emissions of different pollutants, and the red area actually shows the specific objects that are actually emitted into air caused the pollution. Well, it's very clear demonstration of the raw environmental data, but when the data infrastructure has been built by the state, it is very in a kind of very professional form, which might be difficult for the public to make sense of them. So the NGO did the job to make the kind of interpret the data, make it user-friendly, and also facilitate the use of it to the citizens. Well, here I will observe how the citizens or the activists actually create or expand the space of participation by creatively using the networks of platforms, not only the Blue Map app itself, but also connected with other social media platforms. That's how I call them spatial relations, where we could trace the flows of data-mediated public needs. So here the image shows, like in the Blue Map app, it has a connection link, which is built into the app itself. Like when users find the pollution data, they actually could immediately share the information on their social media platforms, such as Weibo, WeChat, and also QQ Space. So here is an example showing how the ordinary users could actually share the environmental data in a wider public space. I think this is an example from Weibo. So normally the user will just share the data, make it public, and then interact with environmental NGOs and also local governments because of the state kind of borrowing power from the state agenda of the environmental civilization discourses. So the governments, they need to take take all the information or the environmental complaints seriously. So the local governments, when they receive some interaction from social media platform, they need to deal with this environmental complaints. This is an example how the environmental NGO IPE, they kind of publicizing the environmental data they got from the Blue Map app. As you can see, each page showing the information about the environmental data, and then they develop their own narratives to pressuring the local governments and local factory to make changes. So in this kind of dynamics, we also observe temporal relations. Especially in some provinces, the local governments, they have established an institutional mechanism to stabilize or to make this type of participation more sustained. For instance, in Shandong province, they have designed a 3-level response system. That is, they call all the municipal governments to establish a Weibo official account on Weibo, and then especially dealing with environmental complaints. When the Blue Map app users, they share the data on social media platforms, especially Weibo, the local governments, they need to respond to the public complaints, and then later the local governments will pressure and get in contact with the local factory to kind of require them to provide feedback to the public, explain the issues, and also make a clear plan how they want to change the polluting, kind of change their work of the mode of their work to reduce pollution. And this is actually established within the institutional sphere. They have a very kind of detailed explanation about how this works at different levels of governments. So I will call this it's kind of using the real-time data, fostering very quick or real-time monitoring, which in the end fosters the efficient response system. I see this as a collaborative data activism, but it's more kind of become more institutionalized or semi-institutional practices with the active involvement of the local governments. So quick discussion of this case study. As you can see, actually the state have been involved in data infrastructure building in the early phase, but later they actually outsourced the data activism project to the NGOs. So I call this as outsourced data activism. But it's actually showing a form of collaborative and relational resistance. This is an example of how the activists and the public could actually expand the existing beta institution developed by local governments through the use of digital media and platforms and data infrastructure. I say this collaborative environmental governance is flexible, negotiable, but at the same time, it's still paternalist in nature. I will just stop here, and then if you have any questions, welcome to discuss with me, or looking forward to any comments or suggestions later. Thank you. I think we are going to have Tianjie Yi from Shandong University, a PhD. Shenzhen University, sorry, from Shenzhen University, giving us a presentation on the role of occupation and gender in recognizing AI-generated misinformation. It's a very interesting topic.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tianjie from Shenzhen University of China, and now I'm a postgraduate student of School of Media and Communication. I have also 2 co-authors, and they are now in China. I'd like to say hi on behalf of them to all of you. And on behalf of our team, I feel really happy to be here and to present to all of you what we have done in last year. And here is the title of my talk today. And sorry, there should be a little change in the title. Should be the role of age instead of gender. And our study has focused on the topic of misinformation generated by AI. And now I will start it with my slides in these 5 parts. And before we dive into my presentation today, I have one question for all of you, but you don't really have to answer it, but we can think it together for a moment. Have you ever encountered found, or identified misinformation generated by AI? Maybe, perhaps it may be a misleading news article, a fake social media post, or even a fabricated video. I think the answer may be yes, but in fact, it is really difficult for people to recognize it is very difficult for ordinary people to recognize them. As we all know, the rapid development of artificial intelligence-generated content has already aroused great attention throughout the world. Especially, it has deeply influenced content production in the news and media industry. And the ChatGPT is a great example. More and more people they are using ChatGPT instead of Google, the search engine, to find information. However, especially in China, there were many Chinese big famous companies. They have already established their own foundation models, and such as SenseChat and Baidu Wenxin, etc. And more Chinese people they are using it, becoming their users and fans. However, the misinformation generated by it can affect users' perception and judgment of society, leading to new social problems. In that case, although AIGC is unstoppably spreading and becoming more and more popular, it also leads to some social concerns and anxieties. Why AIGC generates misinformation? And the first should be that AI can be trained based on the humans' established models and rules. In that case, it means humans can intervene AI-generated content by adjusting some parameters on the rules. And second, it should be the data size of it can easily reproduce common errors. And the second, in order to add new knowledge to it, it definitely needs the help of people do some work like annotation. But annotators' diverse judgments on different issues affect annotation quality, thus impacting information quality. And we also argue that it's very important to clarify the concept of misinformation. And in our study, we use the misinformation term refers to inaccurate or ambiguous false information. And for research purposes, we divided into fact-based and opinion-based. While opinion-based misinformation refers to information that conveys value judgments, emotional attitudes, or recommendations, fact-based is information that contains factual mistakes. And through the literature review, we found there were many factors affecting information recognition, including occupation, information type, information textual characteristics, information processing fluency, high or low, or the age, gender, and education, the demographic characteristics. And so in our mind, we have a question. Since the journalists serve as gatekeepers of news media system, do they have a better ability to identify the misinformation recognition generated by the AIGC, and do other factors still have the important role in misinformation recognition? So we have raised our hypothesis. Occupation, information type, and information processing fluency can positively affect users' recognition of AI-generated misinformation. And also there is a moderating effect of demographic characteristics on user recognition of AI-generated misinformation. And to conduct our research, we use an online experiment from September 10 to 2023. And the left part maybe is not clear. It's we do some examples of the experimental stimuli of the misinformation generated by ChatGPT, which include public health, sports, entertainment, social news, and we divided our online questionnaire into 5 parts. The first part is the question 1 to 15 to measure the participants' judgments of misinformation generated by ChatGPT, and the second part is starting from 16 to 19, and the question 20 is to measure the behavior of participants when facing misinformation, and the last part is to ask some basic information about the age, education, and etc. And here is the table of the basic information of our participants. And we have 23 male participants and 37 for male. Among them, there were 30 journalists and also 30 non-journalists. They are all come from different places in China with age ranging from 18 to 60. And at the end, we collected 58 valid questionnaires. And we use SPS for data processing and analysis of the results. For the variables measurement, first we do the significance test of control variables, and to find that gender, age, and education, these 3 factors do not interfere the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. And then we perform the independent samples t-test for the effect of occupation type on misinformation identification. From the p-value, we can see that the occupation type can positively affect the misinformation identification, and so the hypothesis 1 is supported. And then we can find this descriptive statistics of the level of misinformation recognition. And we can see that the mean value of the fact-based and opinion-based misinformation is different. And due to our reverse setting, lower score means a better degree of misinformation recognition. So in that way, we can see that the opinion-based misinformation recognition, the value is more lower than the fact-based, and in our part, and score is low. When it is lower than 2, it is the correct choice of the participants. So in that case, the overall level of misinformation recognition by the participants is relatively low. And we also to test the if the information type can affect the misinformation recognition, and we found that yes, there is a significant effect. So the hypothesis 2 is supported. And then we also test the effect of information processing fluency, but we didn't find that there is a significant effect. The hypothesis 3 is not supported in the end. And then different from past research, we didn't draw the conclusion that the gender and education, we found that they did not play the moderating effect, but we found that the age is playing a very important role in the misinformation recognition. And we can see from the figure 1 that is age is affects more positively in the lower age than the lower age group than the higher age group, and the moderating effect of the age in hypothesis 4 is supported. and come to the conclusion. We found that occupation types positive effect, and journalists could better identify misinformation generated by AI. And then participants could better identify opinion-based misinformation than fact-based. The moderating effect of age was positive, and occupation type on misinformation recognition affected more positively in the lower age than in the higher age group. So we reasonably speculate that journalists often come into contact with false news, thus possessing a higher perception of misinformation and make it easier to identify them. And fact-based is often more confusing and less easily recognizable by users because it is falsified into facts and presented objectively and naturally, so it is very difficult for people to recognize them. Previous studies suggested that men are more capable of recognizing misinformation than women, and people with higher education are more rational in analyzing and judging information, but we did not come to these conclusions. And sure, we have some limitations in our study. The first, I think, should be the sample size, and the second is on online questionnaire already. Although we have asked the participant to answer the questions in a relatively quiet environment, but maybe there are some other factors can affect the results. And in the future study, we want to improve our research continue. And that's all. Thank you.
Thanks to Tianjie for sharing your work with us. And next, we are going to have Pengfei from Shanghai Jiao University and Zhilin from University of Texas Austin to share their work, very interesting work on how the ideologies of governance built into AI through the daily work of the data annotators.
Okay, thank you, Haijing. Thank you, Shunyu. Hi, everyone. My name is Pengfei from Shanghai Jiao University, and very happy to be part of this panel working with data. I'll be sharing some preliminary findings from our ethnography research on data annotators in China with my collaborator Lin Zhi from UT Austin sitting there. So without further ado, so with the rapid development of AI or algorithmic technologies present new challenges, especially in ensuring how these technologies are transparent, reliable, fair, and accountable. And data actually is at the heart of this challenge, like concepts like datafication, data colonialism, data violence, all stress the importance, the critical role of data in our lives. But when we talk about, for example, datafication, we usually assume that machine algorithm or platforms somehow automatically collect our data, process and analyze it, and then make decision for us. The whole process seems automated, but in fact, the process of datafication or machine learning involves a lot of human labor, not just from professional engineers, experts, IT college graduates, but more so from grassroots data workers, and we call them data annotators, 数据标注工. While some data annotation tasks can be automated by using synthetic data or simulated data, but the vast majority still rely on human labor. So data annotation, technically put, involves labeling various forms of data like image, text, audio, and video, so that it can be recognized and understood by machine learning, or let's say AI. We tell AI this is a microphone, this is a computer, so AI can understand and make decisions. But more importantly, it is also a social and a normative process. Annotators embed their understandings, knowledge, and value into the data. So this process involves human judgment and societal norms in deciding how data is labeled. For example, when data annotators label a social media post as offensive or appropriate, they use their understandings of social norms and the culture context to make these decisions. So we are more interested into the second, the social and normative process of data annotation, not the technical one. And our research question is, what roles do data annotators play in the development and governance of AI technologies in China? And what are the broader implications of their work for AI governance frameworks? So methodology, in terms of methodology, we employed ethnographic research since October last year. We conducted both online and offline participant observation in Shandong, Henan, and Sichuan provinces. And we focused on a leading data annotation platform called Shujiajia to observe their workflows, standards, and actual operations. And also, we conducted 23 semi-structured interviews with data annotators, quality inspectors, and Gonghui leaders. But disclaimer, we haven't done the data analysis coding yet because Jiao Tong University don't have access to NVivo. Just kidding. We haven't done that yet. So the findings presented later are just some preliminary ones, and also a survey with data annotators, not so much, 109 samples. The fieldwork, so we selected the leading data annotation platform, Shujiajia, which offers various task types, including annotation, quick judgment, and data collection, covering multiple data types like image, audio, text, and video, as you can see the screenshot. And the platform divides tasks into individual tasks and Gonghui task, community tasks. However, you can see on the picture, the personal tasks, individual tasks are very limited. It's 0 on this screen. And the community Gonghui task additionally, provides members with more task opportunities and higher rewards, especially for media content moderation tasks, which are all handled by Gonghui members. Therefore, we had to join Gonghui to get to know more about data annotation work. But joining a Gonghui requires an offline invitation. In fact, most of Gonghui are independent startups, data startups, or small and medium-sized companies. So we joined a Gonghui as this is a startup located in Yantai, Shandong, and I'm a part-time data annotators, but most members are full-time employees, and we communicate through WeChat groups and hold meetings and training sessions via Tencent meetings, like Zoom. And the Gonghui is located in a makerspace building because these buildings are government subsidized office space, making them ideal for startups. And as you can see in the picture, the office is a typical white-collar workspace equipped with computers. And the following is a case study of video annotation for training or annotating short video content moderation systems for Kuaishou and TikTok, Douyin, actually. So please join us our Sunday ICA session for more details about this case study if you are interested. I will just skip to the preliminary findings. We found that a significant tension between subjectivity and imposition in the data annotation process. On the one side, there's subjectivity. Annotators' personal experience, cultural backgrounds, and individual interpretations contribute to the inconsistency of labeling. For example, when one annotators might label a social media content as pornography searching, another might see this as 擦边, based on their unique perspectives. On the other side, there's imposition, symbolical power, the exercise of symbolic power, hierarchical structures, and top-down imposition from platforms and the state significantly shape how annotators interpret the labeled data. And in other words, annotators are not just guided by their personal views, but also heavily influenced by the directives they receive from the higher ups. So the tension poses challenges for AI governance. Both platforms and authorities, they must find ways to manage these conflicts and to ensure AI systems are under control. So how do they reconcile these two forces, the tension? This is where the concept alignment, 拉齐, comes in. The concept is used by data annotator practitioners. It's about finding a middle ground where annotators can align their subjective judgments with the imposed guidelines. The notion 拉齐 in Chinese means to smooth a surface or bringing two entities to the same state. And within the annotation works, 拉齐 involves an iterative process where annotators' subjective interactions are guided and corrected through learning, training, exams, quality checks, and feedbacks to conform to and internalize these standards criteria. And this ensures that despite individual biases, the final labeled data meets the required standards set by platforms and regulative bodies. For example, 社会主义核心价值观, socialism core values. And last is our reflection on drawing from Polanyi's paradox, which states we know more than we can tell. Many annotation tasks require an intuitive understanding and judgment that are often hard to express in precise terms. And interestingly, the ambiguity and subjectivity of annotators, which might seem like weakness, actually provide opportunities for accuracy. And annotators' deep and tacit knowledge allows them to make decisions that automated systems might struggle with. So this process alignment is not merely technical, but deeply political. It reflects the power dynamics between the state, corporation, or platforms, and individual workers. Therefore, alignment also raises questions, critical questions about the autonomy of annotators and their rights at agency. And we will explore these issues in the future studies. I think I would just stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Pengfei and Linzhi. And now we have the last presentation from Yuanbo Qu and Yunjuan Lu, discussing ADM systems in collective moderation.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yuanbo. I'm from South China University of Technology, and it's a great honor to be here to present our study, ADMs for Collective Moderation in China, a case study of Douyin. So let's start with the background. So both in China and in Western countries, the platform regulation now still relies heavily on the self-regulation, corporate self-regulation. So the digital media platforms themselves become the gatekeepers or the custodians of the online speech, and they have the responsibility for the regulation of UGCs. But there are a lot of issues about this self-regulation. For example, the lack of democratic accountability, low effectiveness, and inconsistent standards. So several proposals have been made to solve these issues. For example, new forms of quasi-judicial bodies are emerging, and they are trying to bring the civil society power into the regulatory processes. For example, Facebook Oversight Board. I guess many of you have heard of this one, and the Facebook are trying to establish a superior court to recruit the third-party specialists to participate in this platform regulation. And the decision of this board can even overturn the platform's decision and frame the regulatory policies. And in China right now, there are a lot of social media platforms establishing these quasi-self-regulatory entities. For example, Douyin got community moderators, and Bilibili got a disciplinary committee. And Douyin also established the public reviewers from around 2021. Let the communities participate in governing the content. That's what they said. So another way to improve the efficiency for the platform regulation is to use the ADMs. And there are still a lot of criticisms. For example, many people criticize its unfairness, opacity, or the unethical decisions made by these ADMs. But what would happen if we are trying to combine those data-driven moderation and community-driven moderation together? Does it lead to a more inclusive ADMs for moderation? And that's part of our question here. And in the case of Douyin, what they are trying to do right now is to input the civil participation of the users into ADM system and output it with content moderation decisions automatically. So our research questions are here. Firstly, how do ADMs process the moderation practices of user moderators and render decisions on UGCs on Douyin? And what kind of new regulatory relationships have been established? And it's still an ongoing project, and right now we're using observations and in-depth interviews, interviews with both the community moderators and the platform employed moderators. So we got 3 findings here. Firstly, before the moderation, there's a process, we call it automatic task assignment. And what they are assigning is age-board content to those targeted community reviewers. So here's the process. So in the first stage, the UGCs will be filtered by the automatic moderation in the first place. So those definitely illegal or violent footage will be filtered in this stage. And then it will come to the automatic categorizing, which means that in the second stage, those content will be categorized into different classifications. And one classification is called age-board content. So in the case of those age-board content are those videos or footages that with special expressions that may carry specific connotations. For example, some political sensitive or even sexually implicit content. And those content can easily pass the first round of automatic moderation, and it can hardly be detected by the standardized algorithm or even the platform moderators. But the community moderators, they are very familiar with the local context because they are watching those videos all the day, similar videos all the day. So they become the perfect moderators for those age-board content. That's the first stage. And the second stage is collective decision-making, and that happened during the moderation. We can see for the left-hand picture. So this video will be delivered to a community moderator, and after watching the video, they are the ones to decide whether or not this video contains some dangerous behaviors, or whether or not these videos have some disinformation, or whether or not it is generated by AI rather than the human being. So they can make decisions by clicking yes or no or abstain. After evaluating the videos, it comes to the second stage. And on the right-hand side, we can see that these pictures is showing the final result of the votes by those community voters. And when either party gets 19, the decision will be made. And when the overall votes get 31, and still the yes and no are similar, it will goes to a second round, goes to a superior panel of public reviewers, and the final decision will be made by the platform moderators instead of the public reviewers. And this one is pretty similar to the last presentation about annotation, but here we call it tagging. And after the moderation, there will be another process. It asks the users, it asks the public reviewers to rate the videos. So they are not just moderating the videos by making a decision, they are also rating this video from 1 to 5. So 5 means the quality is pretty good. And after giving that score, they are also enabled to tag the videos. So for example, the videos are scored 3 here, so they can choose from ordinary, nothing special, or lack of creativity here. So in this sense, they are basically tagging the videos, and we also call it visibility moderation. And why would they do that? And they're not getting paid for that. I've asked the platform moderators about it, and they said, well, the AI training is pretty necessary right now, not only for the moderation purposes, but also for the target advertising purposes. And they employed external taggers to do it previously, but the external taggers are not even as good as these public reviewers, because these public reviewers, they are more responsible when they are doing their jobs, and they are more familiar with the local context. They can identify all those implicit meanings of this video. So at this point, we figure out that the capacity of the individual judgment are utilized by the platforms. And it has been transformed into a collective decision-making rather than just wisdom of crowds. So according to Hamada, the collective decision-making is the aggregation of those independent judgment with deliberation and consensus to solve complex tasks. So in this sense, the automatic task assignment, collective decision-making, and collective AI training create a new circle when they are making the moderation decisions. And what they are doing right now and their productions are not just the moderation decisions or the UGCS, but also ADMs, because they are not only making moderation, but also making modification to the ADMs. And in this sense, a new co-regulation model with ADMs might be emerging because it embodies the spirit of multi-stakeholderism. But we can also see that the platform power, the misuse of platform power has been transformed into the misuse of data. And we may call to, so it's still an ongoing project, but we are still working on how to improve the data use transparency of this public reviewer system of these quasi self-regulatory entities, and how can we develop a more comprehensive aggregation of the individual judgment, and most importantly, an evaluation systems about the production of this ADMs. So whether or not the moderation decisions are representing the opinion of the public, when it's like the aggregation of the individual judgment. And another thing is that those public reviewers are still somehow selected by the platforms because they have to pass the exam and they are somehow loyal community members. So whether or not they are representing the public is still another question, and we might need to do a more experimental research about it. So thank you for listening for our presentation, and I'm looking forward for your suggestion for our ongoing project. Thank you.